Today has been a grim day for the Israeli army. Initial reports confirm at least 102 soldiers injured in fierce clashes with Hezbollah. The fighting marks a serious escalation in the conflict, pushing the region closer to a full-blown war. The intensity and coordination of Hezbollah's attacks have shocked many in Israel, raising questions about the group's capabilities and the preparedness of the IDF. The human cost of this conflict is already too high. Families grieve for their loved ones and the specter of further violence hangs heavy in the air. The international community watches with bated breath, hoping for a swift resolution. However, the situation on the ground suggests that the fighting is far from over. The determination of Hezbollah is palpable. The group clearly seeks to inflict maximum damage on the IDF and undermine Israeli morale. Each attack, meticulously planned and executed, speaks to their growing confidence in military prowess. Israel now faces a formidable enemy, one that is no longer content with simply defending its borders. This is a watershed moment in the Israeli-Hezbollah conflict. The coming days will determine whether this spiral of violence can be contained, or if it will engulf the entire region. The world watches, hoping for peace but bracing for the possibility of a wider war. In response to the devastating attacks that have left communities shattered and lives upended, IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi has authorized a significant expansion of military operations against Hezbollah, signaling a new phase in the ongoing conflict. This decision reflects the gravity of the situation and the Israeli leadership's determination to strike back with overwhelming force. The mobilization of troops and equipment is a clear indication of the seriousness with which Israel views the threat posed by Hezbollah. The coming days will likely see a surge in Israeli airstrikes, artillery bombardment, and ground incursions into southern Lebanon. These operations are expected to be intense and relentless, aiming to dismantle Hezbollah's military infrastructure. The strategic goals of this expanded operation are twofold, encompassing both immediate and long-term objectives. Firstly, Israel seeks to neutralize the immediate threat posed by Hezbollah's rocket and missile capabilities. This involves a comprehensive campaign to locate and destroy launch sites and missile pads that have been used to target Israeli territory. This involves targeting launch sites, weapons depots, and command centers, aiming to degrade the group's ability to strike Israeli cities and military positions. By crippling these key assets, Israel hopes to significantly reduce the frequency and intensity of Hezbollah's attacks. Secondly, Israel aims to deliver a decisive blow to Hezbollah's infrastructure and manpower, weakening its long-term military capabilities. This includes targeting training camps, supply lines, and other logistical networks that support Hezbollah's operations. This expansion of the conflict carries significant risks, particularly for the civilian population in southern Lebanon. The potential for civilian casualties is high, and the destruction of homes and infrastructure could lead to a humanitarian crisis. The potential for civilian casualties in Lebanon is high, and further escalation could draw other regional actors into the fray. Analysts warn that the conflict could spill over into neighboring countries, further destabilizing an already volatile region. The international community has voiced concerns over the widening conflict, urging restraint and a return to dialogue. Diplomatic efforts are underway to mediate a ceasefire, but the prospects for success are uncertain. However, with emotions running high and both sides seemingly committed to a military solution, the prospects for de-escalation remain bleak. Protests and demonstrations have erupted in various cities, reflecting the deep-seated anger and frustration on both sides. The decision to expand operations underscores the high stakes of this conflict for Israel. It is a bold move that reflects the nation's resolve to protect its citizens and secure its borders. It represents a gamble, a calculated risk aimed at crushing Hezbollah's military capacity and deterring future aggression. Military strategists are working around the clock to ensure the success of these operations, but the outcome remains uncertain. However, the success of this gamble remains uncertain, and the potential consequences of failure are dire. The loss of military personnel and equipment could weaken Israel's defensive capabilities and embolden its adversaries. The coming days will be crucial in determining the efficacy of Israel's strategy and the ultimate trajectory of this dangerous conflict. The world watches with bated breath as the situation unfolds, hoping for a resolution that will bring lasting peace to the region. In the face of this national security crisis, Israeli political leaders have presented a united front. This rare display of solidarity comes at a time when the nation is grappling with unprecedented threats from Hezbollah, a formidable adversary that has long been a thorn in Israel's side. The political landscape, often marked by deep divisions and intense rivalries, has momentarily set aside its differences to focus on a common goal: the defense and security of the Israeli state. Defense Minister Benny Gantz, a frequent critic of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has thrown his full weight behind the government's military response. Gantz, who has often been at odds with Netanyahu on various policy issues, now stands shoulder to shoulder with him, emphasizing the need for a robust and decisive military strategy. This alliance between two political heavyweights underscores the gravity of the situation and the shared commitment to safeguarding the nation. Gantz has categorically rejected calls for a ceasefire, stating that Israel must first cripple Hezbollah's military capabilities to ensure the safety of its citizens. He has been vocal about the necessity of a sustained military campaign, arguing that any premature cessation of hostilities would only embolden Hezbollah and leave Israel vulnerable to future attacks. His stance has resonated with many Israelis who fear for their safety and demand a strong response. This unity reflects the deep anxieties and anger felt across Israeli society. The public's reaction has been one of overwhelming support for the government's actions, driven by a collective sense of fear and outrage. The images of destruction and the constant threat of rocket attacks have galvanized the nation, creating a powerful impetus for a united front. The scale of Hezbollah's attacks has shaken the nation's sense of security, and there is a widespread demand for a forceful response. The relentless barrage of rockets and the resulting casualties have left an indelible mark on the Israeli psyche, reinforcing the belief that only a decisive military victory can restore peace and security. The political consensus, for now, is that any talk of a ceasefire is premature and that Israel must first demonstrate its resolve and military superiority. This consensus is not just limited to the political elite but extends to the broader public, who are united in their call for a strong and unyielding response to the threats they face. However, this unity may prove fragile as the conflict drags on and the costs mount. The initial wave of solidarity could give way to dissent and division as the human and economic toll of the conflict becomes more apparent. The strain on resources, the loss of lives, and the psychological impact on the population could all contribute to a fracturing of the current consensus. The longer the fighting continues, the greater the risk of casualties, economic disruption, and international pressure. Hospitals are already overwhelmed with the injured, and the economic impact is being felt across various sectors. The international community, while understanding Israel's security concerns, is increasingly calling for restraint and a return to negotiations. Moreover, the underlying political divisions within Israeli society, often papered over during times of crisis, are likely to resurface once the immediate threat subsides. The political landscape in Israel is complex and multifaceted, with various factions and interest groups vying for influence. As the conflict continues, these divisions may re-emerge, challenging the current unity. For the moment, though, the Israeli government presents a united front, determined to pursue its military objectives against Hezbollah. This determination is evident in the coordinated efforts of the military and political leadership, who are working in tandem to achieve their strategic goals. The international community's calls for restraint have fallen on deaf ears, as Israel prioritizes what it perceives as the immediate security needs of its citizens. The government has made it clear that its primary responsibility is to protect its people, even if it means facing criticism and pressure from the global community. The question remains whether this unity can be maintained in the face of mounting pressure and the unpredictable nature of this escalating conflict. As the situation evolves, the resilience of this united front will be tested, and the true extent of the nation's resolve will be revealed. Hezbollah's attacks today were not limited to the border regions. In a bold and unprecedented move, the militant group extended its reach far beyond the usual conflict zones, catching many by surprise. The group launched a coordinated offensive across multiple fronts, striking deep inside Israeli territory and demonstrating a level of tactical sophistication and reach that has surprised many military analysts. This multi-pronged attack showcased Hezbollah's ability to plan and execute complex operations, indicating a significant shift in their strategic approach. The first salvos came early in the morning, with a barrage of rockets targeting the northern town of Avivim. The timing of the attack, just as the town was waking up, added to the chaos and confusion, making the response from Israeli defenses even more challenging. The attack, which appeared to catch Israeli defenses off guard, caused widespread damage and casualties. Emergency response teams were quickly mobilized, but the extent of the damage to infrastructure and the number of injured civilians highlighted the severity of the assault. Simultaneously, Hezbollah launched a ground assault on the Israeli-controlled village of Kfar Kila, engaging in fierce firefights with IDF units stationed there. The intensity of the ground battle underscored Hezbollah's commitment to its offensive strategy. As Israeli forces scrambled to respond to these initial attacks, Hezbollah launched a daring raid on the strategic outpost of Khirbet al-Manara. This outpost, known for its strategic importance, became a focal point of the conflict as both sides vied for control. The attack, spearheaded by elite Hezbollah fighters, aimed to capture the hilltop position, which overlooks a wide swath of Israeli territory. The hilltop's vantage point would provide a significant tactical advantage, making it a highly coveted target. While the IDF ultimately repelled the assault, it highlighted the group's growing confidence and its willingness to engage in direct confrontations with Israeli forces. The aftermath of the battle saw soldiers regrouping and strategizing for potential future engagements. These coordinated attacks demonstrate a significant evolution in Hezbollah's military capabilities. The group's ability to launch such a well-coordinated and multifaceted offensive indicates a new level of operational maturity. The group has clearly learned from its past confrontations with Israel, adapting its tactics and upgrading its arsenal to pose a more formidable challenge to the IDF. Historical footage shows a stark contrast between past skirmishes and the current level of sophistication in their operations. The days ahead will likely bring further surprises as Hezbollah seeks to exploit any weaknesses in Israel's defenses and maintain the element of surprise. With both sides preparing for the next move, the region remains on high alert, bracing for what could be a prolonged and intense period of conflict.